Without further ado, what I would like to do is to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker is Dr. Joanna Simpson, who is a lecturer at the University of the West Indies. And I know she's more than this. So one of the things that I will ask her to do is to introduce herself, to talk about who she is, some of the work that clearly that she does in Jamaica, and just to also she can say a few words about what she has been doing since she's been on these shores. So that's what Dr. Joanna Simpson will do, and we'll give you 10 minutes for that if that works for you, and then after we will then hear from Reverend Kevin Nana Moses Calvert. Without further ado, over to you, Dr. Joanna Simpson. Please unmute yourself, and we look forward to what you have to say. Thank you very much.
All right. Good night, good night, good night. And thank you so much for having me. I am Dr. Joanna Simpson, and I'm here from Jamaica, and I am a lecturer at the University of the West Indies. I'm a social work educator, macro social work educator, social work criminologist. I have a podcast called Safer Tomorrow. And I am here in the UK to work with Synergy Network and the URC to look at how we can, as a church, contribute to reducing youth violence, and particularly or violence-affected youth, and particularly those involved in knife crime. So I'm just going to share a little bit today. I'm going to share a little bit about my story, a little bit about, some of the findings from my research, and then I'm going to share also a few of the initiatives that have happened in Jamaica that I have been a part of or involved in some way. All right, so I am Joanna, and I am a pastor's daughter. So I grew up with my parents, and my mother called us a missional family because she believed that, we are on missions no matter where we are. We didn't have to go to the far ends and the corners of the earth to be missionaries, but we could be missionaries right in our local space. And so what happened was that as I grew up, I was carried, and sometimes I say dragged, to various inner city communities because my father has an organization called Operation Save Jamaica in Jamaica, and he had his own experience of revival, and he went to a Reinhard Bonnke concert or crusade and just had this vision. This vision was birthed in his heart that Jamaica could be saved. And so part of what that looks like for him was going into communities and doing various initiatives, which we'll hear about a little bit more. I did not like it at all, but God has a sense of humor. And so later on, I went on to do social work, and I worked in a particular inner city community there. And then I went on to do my PhD and worked and currently work at the University of the West Indies. But as I conducted my research, I looked at how formerly incarcerated persons really went through this process of being incarcerated and leaving incarceration, as well as looking at what happened to them before. But what I found interesting was that the church played a significant role in facilitating the change process. Okay, and so I'm just going to share a few factors that contributed to this change. One was that the church provided role models, persons who were law-abiding, persons who had, good morals that they could emulate, because now they were transitioning and moving from a lifestyle of criminality, and they wanted to be able to shift and understand how to operate and to live a new lifestyle. And so the church provided role models. The church also provided moral information, meaning they literally provided information from the Bible, as well as sermons, and that would tell and inform these persons about my participants about what was right, what was wrong. It also told them about how to live life. And then also what I found was, once the men experienced some, they began to understand that what they did was wrong, They then began to go into these various activities. So music, sports, different types of the arts, church, and, different aspects of church, prayer, Bible study, the different types of ministries that, would be had that they could participate in. And what that did is it helped them to change their routine, because those who were a part of a lifestyle of, being in a gang, they had a particular routine that they would, engage in. So for example, they would go on the corner, smoke, go and probably rob somebody, come back, they would go to parties, etc. But now, being a part of a number of activities, they were able to change the way they did life. Also, what happened was that they were able to engage in different personal opportunities, for example, skill building. So they were able to learn new skills and build on their own sense of self. Some of them also had a better idea and understanding of themselves as Black men. And so therefore that helped to build their identity. And finally, they got a new sense of purpose because they had opportunities to lead. And so, after going through that process of understanding what it is to live differently and being able to, build on their existing strengths and even correct some of the behaviors that they previously had, they were given leadership opportunities, and that helped them to just have a new sense of purpose, a new direction in life, somewhere that they could work towards. And then what I recognized is all of these factors that existed really brought together and generated this environment, what I call an environment of change. So once they were a part of this environment, they were encountering all of these factors or ingredients at the same time, and it would help to change their mindset. It would help to improve their quality of life and just their own sense of well-being. So, as I look on and talk about, my findings, what I have seen and, also participated in are a number of initiatives in Jamaica. So, while I was, so we started a program called Taking Charge of Your Future. This was Joytown Community Development Foundation. And that was really a short-term program where we would take young people out of school for a year. We would have spoken with their teachers, the principal, their parents, and we would immerse them in an environment where they would be able to get intentional, intensive education. So if they were falling behind in school, particularly as it relates to literacy and mathematics, we would focus there, but they would also be immersed in life skills, a spiritual environment, understanding more about God and how God sees them and what God feels about them, as well as they'd be engaged in arts and a number of other activities. And we really have been able to reintegrate these youngsters back into regular schools. A few of them we've had to reintegrate into other schools, but there have been significant improvements. And then also we have Operation Restoration Christian School, a school that I had volunteered with some years ago. And that also is a school that takes in young children, young people who are outside of, can't necessarily function or struggling to function in the regular educational system. And they move them from, for example, year 7 to about year 9 and reintegrate them into other opportunities that would be helpful for them. So we look at some of these, in a sense, early prevention methods. And some of what we also did was, for example, Operation Save Jamaica worked a lot in another particular community. And what they did was they essentially took over the baton from a church leader who had worked in the prisons and had developed a strong rapport with some of the incarcerated persons at the time. And when he came out, he had just a passion about going back into his community to serve his community and to ensure that he could make a positive impact on the community he believed he terrorized. And so what happened there was that the church partnered with this formerly incarcerated person, and together they were able to bring the resources and the knowledge, the experience, the networks of the church, and the inside knowledge of somebody who had been a part part of, criminal networks and the lifestyle and went into the community for transformation. And what they did was they had gospel concerts, they had men's breakfasts, where they would bring warring sides together, just to talk and to hear, positive messages about God, about life, challenging them about conflict resolution, encouraging them. And we've had a number of persons changing as a result. And then also we had partnered with other churches, particularly another foundation called Whole Life Ministries. And what they did was they had a whole sports program. And so through their sports program, we were able to, filter some of the young people through these programs so that they would now be fully engaged. But it wasn't just a football program. It was an opportunity to also speak about the gospel, to also speak about positive ways of operating. And so, in Jamaica, there has been a number of other initiatives. There has been Cornerstone Ministries, again, that has sought to serve persons within the facility, providing residential support for them once they're to leave and providing further support afterwards. So, we've done a number of things, sports, music, arts, and all of these come together to have a positive impact on young people, older people, and change. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joanna Simpson, giving us lots of food for thought. One of the things that we will be doing this evening is we will be having a panel discussion involving all of our speakers. I'm sure you were very infused by what Dr. Joanna had to say. And if you've got a question, please send in your questions. There is a Q&A button. Please send them in. We will do our best to share them with a panel, and hopefully they will respond to your questions. So put on your thinking caps as our next speaker talks. And then in about 20-25 minutes, we'll have an opportunity to really hear from our panel. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Reverend Kevin Nana Moses Calvert to speak. And again, we look forward to what you have to say. So it's over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Well, it's my pleasure.
Sir, could you just, if you could possibly turn up your microphone or your volume?
Testing. Any better?
That's better. That's better, sir.
Okay. Yes. Good evening,
I want to
everybody.
hear that baritone voice of yours.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. As you have introduced me, well, I am from the United Church in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands that I serve as a minister within that context. However, my broader portfolio is Minister of the Visual and the Performing Arts for the church. And I specialize in digital filmmaking. So I am a filmmaker. I am a poet, storyteller, and music producer. I channel my creative work through Kairos Creation Caribbean Limited, which is an artist management, record label, and production company. Not where my story began, but one part of my story is that while I have been pursuing God and God has been pursuing me and continue to call me and reveal himself to me, I know that God is not static and God continues to reveal himself in new and exciting ways, which are practical, relevant, and interesting. And I understand the vision, which is to be anchored in Jesus Christ, but to allow myself to open up for whatever God is doing in this time. So I remember being a student of theology at the University of the West Indies, and during that whole time, were just the thoughts about God and the reflection about God coming from, it's quite academic. And I thought to myself, this is the truth, this is the knowledge I'm gaining. And when I leave this institution, I'll be going out into the church, going to the church, out in the world, and presenting this God through these lenses, the way I'm getting it. And I thought to myself, it's not going to be so relevant, it's not going to be so practical, and it will not connect. it will not connect effectively. And I recognize that theology cannot exist by itself. It needs a container through which it is formed and executed. And as a result of that, I remember during my final year, I was, as all students are expected to do, to preach a sermon. After you have studied for 3-4 years, you need to be able to show to the institution what you are able, or your church, convince them now what you should be doing when you go out into the world. And I was so happy with the traditional outlook in terms of just doing a sermon. So I decided to plan a worship service called Article Worship, in which I was engaging various aspects of the art to channel this message about Godful. And I remember inviting some of my lecturers who were not Christians, such as some Rastas, and that's because while I was studying theology, I thought to myself, I wanted theology in itself needed some other aspects to it to help it to be practical. And so I had gone to the Cultural Study Institute to study and to be able to do to be able to know to merge both disciplines. And so I invited some of my lecturers, and they came, and I performed poetry, drama, dance, music. So again, within the Jamaican context, if I were doing a dub, it would be many are the plans of a man or woman, but only the purpose of the Lord will stand. Yeah, man. Many are the plans of a man or woman, but only the purpose of the Lord will stand. To obey is better than burn sacrifice. To follow Jesus is better than the wasted life. Like Jonah, you can run, 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 but you cannot hide. Go where God sends you. He will provide. He promised He will never, 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 never leave your side. Why? Many are the plans of a man or a woman. But yeah. And so when I mixed up all of that, no, I thought to myself, going out in the church, I would take article worship with me. And that I did. And that I continued to develop and use a formula: poetry, drama, dance, music, whatever it is, through which we reflect and engage people. So much so that I was asked to do other things. So I got involved in advocacy now, like like I was approached by the church to say, well, we need to do something about human trafficking. We need to disseminate that information. And so I created a production called Where is Melissa? So isn't it ironic that I created this production over 12 years ago that became a movement that literally took me all over the world doing this part of production. And here now in 2025, Melissa came knocking on my door. Of course, I said, no, Melissa, I wish you didn't come, referring to the hurricane here. But and then out of that now, the government saw what I was doing in regarding human trafficking. The church was doing, or what I was doing through with the church. And so they asked me to create something for them. So I went on to create a campaign about a plea bargain for the Ministry of Justice. They invited me again to come and work alongside them to create something about human trafficking. So I created Rescue, which is a documentary, a docudrama, for them called Rescue. And I went on to do a whole campaign for them about the plea bargain, and it continues. Now, I am, I continue to do other products, such as even coming here, we have no to gangster life. And so we do these things as a way of engaging not just the youth, because I realized first that the arts is an opportunity for intergenerational worship. We're in the context, a lot of people are moving away from church, and we use the arts as one tool or as an opportunity to minister to all levels, of persons, and bring them back within this space. But when I say bring them back within the space, more so to be God conscious and to point into Jesus, not necessarily a building, because the creative arts now, article worship, gave me an opportunity now to think of church outside of the walls. And that is one way of being able now to engage the youth, engage people just right where they are, whether it's through storytelling, poetry, drama, film. And speaking of film, I remember doing this film called Mothers Against Gun Violence. And it was through, I don't, some international organization had asked me to do this thing, and we did it. And what it was about, literally went into the inner city community and capture the stories of mothers who have painfully lost their children, some of them their only child, as a result of gun. So while gun, and they were telling us these stories, and so we captured them and put it together, this film, and it became this powerful piece of work that we could use now for advocacy and starting conversation. And just to say, the arts again, well, church is a powerful place, a powerful, and it should be a safe space. But church sometimes can become so traditional in its outlook. It can become so biased in its outlook sometimes. So, the church will say to people, come as you are, come with your language, come with your culture, come with your flaws, and before you come through the door, it starts to say to you, you can't enter like this. You can't function like that. But the arts now gave us an opportunity now to create a space to theologize with them, to allow them to participate in the conversation. So it was just an absolute opportunity to grow with God and to watch God use the arts and use me in this way. And so I continue to represent. So thank you for the time of sharing, and we're looking forward to see where else it will go from here.
Thank you very much, Reverend Nana Moses. That was inspiring. That was yeah, really inspiring. Lots of, again, food for thought. I mean, I'm tempted to ask you questions now, but I will hold off because we're going to have a sort of a Q&A stroke roundtable conversation in around 20 minutes time. I would encourage everyone to, I see that we've got one question now. Surely after hearing those two presentations, you must have a question in you. You must be, you must be somehow piqued by what you've heard. So, don't be bashful. Please feel free to use a Q&A facility and ask questions of our esteemed speakers. And by the way, Reverend Kevin, that was some excellent DJ work that you did there. We've recorded this, and we'll release that later. Next, we have a conversation really that will be facilitated by Dr. Jackie McLeod, and it involves Natalie. Natalie, if you can unmute yourself, and perhaps we might be able to see you as well. And Natalie is someone who has lost a loved one to violence affecting young people. And there is Natalie there. So Natalie and Dr. Jackie, I will hand over to you if you could sort of lead us through the next session. And it's an opportunity for us to hear from you and hopefully support you as well at this particular time. So over to you, Dr. Jackie, and you, Natalie, as well.
Good evening, Natalie. Really pleased to have you on the platform tonight. You're such an important person in this webinar tonight, and we really appreciate you coming on to share your own personal story and to help us understand more and to gain insights from the tragic experiences that you've been through. We spoke earlier and you were explaining that your life was turned upside down 6 years ago by a traumatic bereavement. And I wonder, Natalie, would you be able to share with those on the platform tonight what actually happened and how it impacted you? Because we've heard about youth violence, we've heard about crime in our communities, but I think it's very different when this impacts you personally. So would you be able to share with us?
Yeah, of course. Thank you everyone for having me. I've got a bit of a cough, so just excuse me if I cough. So, September the 8th, 2019, my life changed. My oldest child, she was 22. I've got 4 children, and she was the oldest, the only girl, out of all of my children. She was murdered in Camden. She was one of 3 that week. The only girl, though. She was murdered by another girl. This was just the most heartbreaking, most awful thing to happen. And it was such a shock. I still sometimes have that little bit, I don't believe it. She had a fight with this girl, and the girl pulled a knife and stabbed her in the heart, and she died at the scene. So that was around 11:30. I was told at 3 a.m. I rushed down there, and she was under the tent still. So that was really difficult. That is really difficult to kind of picture, your child there under the tent, and there's nothing you can do. It just so horrific. There was a lot of feelings for myself of guilt, blame, thinking, what didn't I do to bring her up like this? What did I like? Just so many things. It wasn't until the murder trial when the person, the murderer, she pleaded guilty. She got 8 years and done 4. So that was another heartbreak on top of it. So, but at that moment, I was able to let go of the feeling of blame, like it was me, you know. But what I can say is, the way that God pulled me, held me, was just, I began to count the miracles that God was doing in my life around that time, and then it got to the point where I couldn't count anymore. There were so many things he did, and he still does today. But what I do remember is feeling like him holding my heart. It was broken, but he was holding my heart together. And there was a sense of isolation and loneliness, because nobody I know has been through that. Like, nobody in my family has been through that. Nobody, and I was really isolated. I felt alone. I would watch true crime documentaries just to see the family's reaction, to see, like, kind of just to resonate with them. I had a victim support worker, and she recommended that I join the support network that they have. I did, and I went straight into becoming a volunteer. And I think that's where things started changing for me in a way, because I was able to be around other people that had experienced similar things. And I felt part of a community. I felt part of something. It was a club that nobody wanted to be in, but we were there. And that really started to change how I was able to just get through life. I then I interviewed out 700 people, and I got a job working with them. And that changed me also, because I was able to organize my own groups with my own volunteers, and just look at the actual mechanics behind peer support and how it benefits people, and how people can use that to not move on with their life, but move through their life. So, yeah.
Thank you, Natalie, for sharing so powerfully, and for helping us to gain some insight into the emotions that you go through in that sort of a situation. And I heard you speak early on about a feeling of guilt, a feeling of blame, and I also heard you speak about that feeling of isolation and loneliness. And I guess for those of us who haven't experienced it personally, but we might be around people who have gone through similar experience. They might be in our street, they might be in our workplace, they might be in our church. What kind of advice would you give to people to how to reach out to somebody who might be experiencing really powerful emotions because of traumatic loss?
I would say give space to them to speak even about the gory stuff, the horrible stuff. Still yourself in a way that you can manage to hear those things. Oftentimes people they don't know what to say, so they say nothing, and that's just even more painful. You're just in it alone. But if you can share space, create a space where people can talk about what they've been through and really lay it all, and because there's so many steps in this, and it's still, you know, at first you can't believe it, then you've got the police, and then you've got the funeral, and then there's nobody, you know. That's the time when people need to really step in, because there's so many families and mothers that I've spoken to that are stuck at a certain point, and they can't believe that this has happened, and they just on this just repeating themselves over and over again. And sometimes you have to sit with someone and let them do that several times. But if you're there when everybody else starts to melt away, and to continue that support, to go through that support, go through that whole, you know, the murder trial, go through all of it with them, be consistent, that will create a space where there's trust and there's a feeling of somebody's with me. They're walking alongside me with this. So I think there's lots of things you can do. Also, create like other times where it's not all about the grief. Like do other things that will, you know, make your hands be busy, like knitting. I don't know, but there's all different things that we've created doing, like creative arts and stuff like that. That is really helpful to kind of take your mind off it, because you wake up in the morning and you're reminded about it. All day you're thinking about it. It's a really good place if you can just take your mind off it, and it takes away the trauma and the stress. Me, unfortunately, I didn't deal with my trauma very well. I just blocked it away and pushed it away. And unfortunately, what happened with that is because of all of the trauma and the stress, I've now been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So and they said to me, the cancer started 6 years ago. So because I was in therapy, but I was talking about other things, I didn't deal with the death of my daughter. And so I believe that came out in my body, and now I have colon cancer. So yeah, create spaces for people to really allow themselves to even if it's repetitive, to allow it to come out.
Thank you, Natalie. And yeah, it's hard to hear all that you've been through, but it's important for us to hear. And I do reach out to you, especially around your recent diagnosis, and just want to reach out to you around that. And certainly if I can speak to you offline, happy to do it. So if there's anything I can do to help.
Thank you.
I was also amazed at how early on when you were speaking, you spoke about connecting in with the peer support group and victims support. And I think also in our earlier discussion, you talked about the church potentially being a place almost to signpost at. Perhaps could you share a little bit about that? Because sometimes we feel that we have to have all the answers typically, and that's often not the case.
Yeah, I think sometimes you can do things with the best intentions, but it's not done well. And so having that holistic view of support is really important, and being able to outsource something and bring it in. So bring it into the space. So I don't know if there's like a financial welfare advisor that you could bring in something like that, then you would have maybe someone to come and do arts and crafts or arts or performance or something. And even within the church, everybody's got their own strengths and stuff. So you can usually find somebody to do most things. But if you're gonna do it properly and have the right support in terms of like actual knowing the laws and what's out there, what you're able to do, because I wasn't able to, like, there's a compensation thing. I didn't take it. My caseworker wasn't that informed, and so I ended up not getting it. And being around a lot of the other peer supporters, they were talking about, oh, they paid off their mortgage. So it's really important that people are given the right information at the right time, because you only have, like, for that example, you only have 2 years to actually apply. So you're deep in your grief and not even thinking about it. And then when you kind of put your head up for air, it's already like things have already passed you by. So to have that holistic support, but bringing in people, I think would be really helpful.
Thank you, Natalie. And we've spent some time hearing from you about what you've been through, and I think you spoke about it being a kind of journey, really, that different things happen at different times. The immediate response, the slightly delayed response, and things like at the trial, which maybe, again, people may not be thinking about, that there's a date that you're working towards and you have to kind of go through again. And I think you spoke a bit about the support that you might need at different stages. We've probably not got much more time to ask more detailed questions, but I just wondered if there was one thing that you would want to leave with us tonight, those of us who are on this call, but also those who might watch the recording at another time. Is there one specific piece of advice, or
I know this sounds, but what I do know is God comforts the brokenhearted, and that's all. Just lean in Him. That's it.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I really, really appreciate you having shared, and your courage, your tenacity, and your faith that really encourages us, even though you've been through so much. So really appreciate you sharing, giving your time tonight. And there may be questions in the Q&A, I'm not sure. So we'll be grateful if you would stay with us. So thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Thank you very much for your being so candid with us, being so articulate, and being also so open about you know, your experiences. I mean, often when it comes to issues around violence affecting young people, it's something that we read about in the newspapers, or we hear about it on radio, and it's quite something else to actually hear what is really a testimony as to how you know, these sorts of events, these sorts of tragedies really impact individuals and families, and how you know, losing a loved one under those circumstances, it never goes away. It constantly is with you, and you know, the fact that you know, you mentioned your faith and how that was a source of comfort to you. You know, that is you know, to me, that's quite assuring. I was gonna call upon Bishop to pray for you. I just felt, you know, it just, you know, just a moment really, just to commend this sort of you know, what you've said to God. You've mentioned obviously your health challenges as well, and you know, we as a network are there to support those who have lost loved ones to serious youth violence or violence affecting young people, and you know, I think it's the right thing as brothers and sisters in Christ to really sort of just offer up a word of prayer on your behalf to the Lord. So, Bishop, I know I'm putting
Thank
you on
you.
the spot here, but I know that
Fine.
you're
Thank you so much.
individual.
Firstly, I just want to say, Natalie, thank you so much for sharing. I'm really grateful to you. Heavenly Father, we approach you through your Son, Jesus Christ, who understands the deepest things that happens in our hearts. Father, I thank you for Natalie. I thank you that you have brought her through to this time. I can but imagine that awful experience she had, losing a daughter in such circumstances is painful, deeply troubling. But I'm grateful to you, Father, and now I ask that your grace will continue to be upon her. May you guide her life. May you strengthen her physically, emotionally, and spiritually as she journeys through life. And Lord, we learn also that she's suffering from an illness. And we recognize that you are a healer. Sometimes you heal via the doctors, the medical interventions. At other times, you might wish to do so divinely. God, whatever method you may so wish to choose, we ask that your hand be upon Natalie and that you guide her through this difficulty. Father, thank you. And for the rest of her family, likewise, I commend them into your hands in the name of Jesus. May your grace and your favor and your love be upon them. Thank you for hearing my prayer. And with this deep sense of humility, I commend Natalie and her family to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bishop, for that prayer. Also, I'd like to thank Dr. Jackie for leading us through that particular session, the sensitivity in which you sort of asked those questions. So just moving on now to our next sort of part of the webinar, and it's an opportunity for us to hear more from Reverend Kevin, Dr. Joanna. I'd also like to welcome Karen Campbell from the United Reformed Church. And as I said at the outset, the URC are one of the sponsors of tonight's webinar, and Karen and I do lots of work together. So welcome to you, Karen. Natalie, if you want to stay, I'm just looking at the questions. I'm not sure if I've got a question for you, but I'm sure somebody would be,
I'll stay. I'll stay.
Yep, excellent. That's great. So, and Bishop, you're here. So it's we've got a panel of some very capable people. As I've said, Bishop is our chair, as well as being able to pray like Paul. He can also preach like Peter. So without further ado, we've got 4 questions. Please do send in your questions. And the first question is for Dr. Joanna, and it says, what strategy/activities did you use to build trust with and between the groups before they agreed to attend the event? So that's for you, Dr. Joanna.
All right, thank you so much for that question. So as we mentioned, men's breakfasts were one of the main ways that were used, and to get persons to the men's breakfast was a lot of relationship building, having relationships with the different sides, talking with them, allowing them to feel heard. Generally, the men had a respect for church leaders, and so were a bit open to speak with them. So building those relationships, and then kind of nurturing and building on their own desire for peace. And then, so that relationship, that desire for peace, and then bridging that question about coming to some of these events. And at times they were also very willing to, send some of their young people to the various initiatives that we were having because of their own influence.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question is for Reverend Kevin, and it's how do you see this combined approach of drama, music, poetry, evangelism transfer across the second, third, and fourth generation Black young people in the UK? So it's really about how would that work within our particular context, Reverend Kevin?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you, sir.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I see being here, I realize that it's already working. I have met a number of young people who are doing things through their local church. For example, I remember visiting one of the churches within the URC, and they have been using knives. The local church, they use knives through the youth ministry. They use knives that they have gotten from the police to make roses. And so when you see these roses made out of metals from a blacksmith, you would have never been able to tell where they're coming from. But when you hear those stories, it became a very powerful testimony. So the next thing is I would say to you is that arts is everywhere. You have professional arts and perhaps amateur arts, but it doesn't matter. People are able to use it to engage and influence. Look at social media. Look what is happening there. Look at the AI and just other aspects. It's very much active. And so the church needs to be deliberate in how it uses the arts to engage in regards to issues, which I've mentioned some, like the trafficking, youth against violence, a number of areas, the environmental issues. So it is there, and it's a tool that God has given to us that we can engage as a church and, to speak to our youth and various generation.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So the next question, I think, is for everyone on the panel. Natalie, if you don't feel comfortable responding to that, you don't have to, but I think it's definitely a question for all the kind of the church leaders, and it's what would it take for the church to take that message, come as you are, seriously, i.e. when people do come as they are, is the church ready to receive them and provide a place of belonging, safety, reconciliation, and compassion? So we haven't heard from Karen yet. So Karen, I think this is a good question to put to you. I know you are a mover and a shaker within the United Reformed Church. I'm just wondering if you could give us your thoughts on this particular question, if you are able.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Can I first say apologies, my camera isn't working. I'm not deliberately staying off camera. It's not working. So so that's why you can't see me. So sorry about that. With regard to the question, is the church ready? Does the church really honestly mean come as you are? I think that many people in the church would think that they mean it, but in real life, I think we don't. And I think there's all kinds of stipulations. I think I heard somebody saying it earlier on that it's come as you are, but really as you are, and then at the door we kind of tell you how you ought to be and what you need to be in order to fit in and so on. And I think if I'm really honest, if we're going to really mean that we take people as we are, then those who are already in the church, I think there'll be a lot of discomfort and a lot of dis-ease. But I actually think that that's a good thing, because I don't think that we should be in church to be comfortable. I think we should be uncomfortable, because until the world around us is well, is in a good place, we shouldn't be in just comfortably in a good place, because then that means there's always still work to be done. And so I think we need to face the dis-ease, and we need to challenge ourselves, challenge ourselves as well as challenging those who are around us. And I really feel that we need to almost start by challenging ourselves, because I think too often we try to put right what is outside without putting right what is within. And maybe when we put right ourselves, we're in a better position to actually engage with the world around us and what is going on.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Bishop, could I call upon you to respond to this question?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, it's a very interesting question, if I may say so. But one of the things that I noticed during Jesus's ministry was that he went around, and if you look at some of the audiences he encountered, some were sick, some were lame, some were blind, some were halt, and some didn't have the greatest of reputation. But Jesus didn't mind that. He was there for everyone. And I think if we are the only body that Jesus has on earth, then I think we too must be prepared to deal with each and everything that come our way. I am not going to pretend that it's easy, and I think that there might be it might be necessary to have some rethinking and retraining, because for some, particularly people of, maybe I say, my age group, it will be a little bit harder because we're accustomed to certain things. So I wouldn't say that the church is 100% ready, but I think the church is doing good work, and with training and rethinking, we will be in a better position as we go forward.
Thank you for that, Bishop. Dr. Joanna, do you want to give us your take on that?
Sure, thank you. So what would it take for the church to take that message, come as you are, seriously? I think it takes a lot of reflection, as Bishop spoke about who did Jesus speak to? I think there's some questions, some guided questions that may be helpful for us to think back about our own stories. Where are we coming from? You know, when Jesus met us, what did that look like for us back then? Not years when we have been, you know, settled in the faith and are more mature. And so I think some reflection might be important for us as we seek to prepare ourselves to be more open to welcome those who are coming and may be different from us. I think another approach that could perhaps be taken as well is, again, the sermons, you know, what is spoken of at the pulpit, from the pulpit, the types of messages that are shared and the questions that are asked, and also holding us accountable to the questions that are being asked. What are the answers that we are coming up with as we go to God and seek Him for, you know, His heart on the matter? So I think there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of reflection, and also messages from the pulpit that can help us to become more prepared to, you know, open ourselves to persons who may be different from us. And then just going back to that place of where we are coming from. And then also just talking to persons to get an idea, to begin to get an idea of who they are, what they are like, because that also is a way to build empathy and build compassion. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Nana, you kind of alluded to this during your presentation.
Yeah.
Could you just kind of maybe give us a little more sort of information on that? So, for instance, I know you cut a very kind of sort of I was going to say extravagant sort of figure in terms of your look. How does that go down in the churches?
Yes, I'm laughing because I had a conversation with Karen Campbell yesterday. Well, she was asking me the same question after my presentation, but I'm also laughing because I was sharing a story with them that when I was going to seminary, one day I had an experience where I was walking along the corridor, just walking. You have to look at my shoulder to see, you know, walking with a rhythm. But the rhythm, you see my rhythm?
Mm.
So I'm walking with this rhythm, but the cultural rhythm of those who are a part, of the ministerial formation, this is their rhythm. Hello, good day. And my rhythm is, what's up? And in my context, well, go on, good, bless up, peace and love. So one day, keeping my rhythm, it disturbed the rhythm of the community. And they got me and tied me to a tree. And they started to wash me, meaning throwing water at me from my head to my toe. I was drenched with water. And they said, the church sent you here to be a minister, and by God will make a minister out of you. We don't like the way you walk. We don't like the way you talk. And they continued to wet me, and then they then president of the college came down and saw them doing it, and they all stopped. And I said, thank God I am saved. And he looked at them and looked at me and said, carry on, and continued. And they wet me. So even though I've given that story, I think it is, there are times when people within my own space as a minister don't expect me to look this way with the locks and just the way I carry myself, whole persona. And I deliberately do that because I wanted to lean into the idea, taking it literal, that when you say to people, come as you are, let them come. And very often we say that when people come in, the church is so strong that it's able to transform them in a way to look like what the church believes a good Christian ought to look like. And it becomes more about the outward appearance, and it becomes then the safe space becomes a place of facade, a place of hypocrisy, a place that will look and sound a particular way, but that's not the truth. And so I wanted to use arts to break that down, and outside of that, to be myself, to sound like myself, to be comfortable with myself, to hear my own voice, and to say, this is who I am, and to allow God to see me in this way. And in so doing, finally, it gives people a chance to, you might not look like me, but relax. Come as you are, literally, man. And so on a Sunday morning, sometimes as a minister, the way how I dress, everybody will come looking very traditional and very proper. And I'll just walk in with my shirt out of my pants and say, Wagwan, bless up, welcome to church, everybody. I want to do, So, yeah, I hope I respond.
Thank you very, very much for that. Yeah, please feel free. This is out to those in Zoom land. Please continue to send in your questions. We had 4, and it seems as if you've dried up in terms of your responses. Natalie, there's a question for you, and it's from anonymous attendee, and it's asked if you could say something about support for siblings. I'm sure that's sort of pertaining to your particular experience. So if you could maybe say something about that, that would be great.
I think it's a similar support, really, because although my sons, they had grief therapy, they weren't ready to take on the actual, to do that type of work that therapy takes at such a young age. So they were part of an organization that took them out and did activities with them, took them, we got all types of tickets, football tickets, all types of things they did. But I think there is something about taking your mind off it, because at home it's doom and gloom. Mummy might not be even making dinner, but at home, and when they're out and they're taken out of their space, out of their own home, just doing things to kind of take their mind off things. And the older siblings, there has to be an acknowledgement on what that is like, what that looks like, because often siblings feel guilt, like they should have done something, they should have protected them, they should have, and there needs to be quite a lot of work in taking that outlook out of it, because it's not their fault. So there's different ways, I think, of supporting mums, siblings, adult children, and we have groups at work for all different people that need support. So I think there is something about separating this, like the sibling groups, and tailoring that support to them.
Just as a supplementary question to that, in terms of the support, is it finite? And did you find it useful? So is it, in terms of the support, is it just for a specific time, or is it open-ended?
No, there's some people that have been with victim support for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
They've then become volunteers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's open-ended. There's not any stop to the support.
Mm-hmm. And personally, did you find it useful?
Oh, 100%, like 100%. That was the breakthrough for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to be around people and not feel isolated, and people that understood me. And then when I was able to turn that around and give back and be supportive to them, that I still do it now. I still get a real amazing feeling of satisfaction of supporting other people. And that's helpful to my mental health and my emotional health.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. We've got about 15 minutes to go. One of the questions is, can Nana Moses share some of his music with us? I'm sure you don't look bashful to me, so I'm sure you'll be happy to do that. But before you do that, it'd be good to hear, just I'll get a few more questions in from our esteemed panel here. I've got a question myself. I'm going to use the my authority as chair. And it's this, in John 10, verse 10, Jesus speaks about giving giving young people, talking about an abundant life. And what do you think an abundant life means within the context of our young people? So I would like to ask that question initially of Bishop. And then if you could all put on your thinking caps, just to kind of respond to that. So it's that question about, the abundant life. What does it mean when it comes to our young people? Bishop, I think you're muted. I think you're still muted, Bishop.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. My internet is in and out for some reason. Yeah, abundant life. I think it's great when young people are given the opportunity to, like, say, come into a church and be able to express themselves. They will be able to sit down, they will be able to say what they want to say, and they will be given the space to express themselves. And I think that sometimes what they might have to say might be very difficult for some of us to hear. But if they're going to be abundant in their speech, then they ought to be allowed to say what they want to say. And I think we have got to be very patient indeed in listening to what young people have to say, because they have a voice and they are able to tell us what's going on in their lives more than what we might think is going on. So I think in terms of the abundant life, I would just put it in everyday jargon to say Jesus gives absolute life, but we are in this life and we need to hear what's going on in this life so that we can help others to reach the life that God gives in terms of eternal life.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Bishop. Karen, good to have your thoughts on this.
Okay, thank you. I think it's various things, and I think it's different things at different spaces, but which almost still amount to the same thing. I think we need to give our children, right from the word go, I think our children, our young people need safety, and the being able to feel that they are valued, that they are cared for, that they can flex and wriggle and push and test and so on and still be safe. I think that especially as well, actually at every stage, I think they need to have opportunities, and I think that's opportunities to speak, and maybe sometimes opportunities to not speak if they don't want to, and not be forced to do what their elders think that they ought to do, and so on. I think as well there is this thing about being listened to, and I think that is not just hearing when they speak, but actively listening and maybe seeking out their voices and seeking out what it is that is needed and that makes them tick. And I really think that there's something here about prospects, because I look around and I think to myself, how much of what we see it comes out of hopelessness, or a sense of, where am I going? What is there for me? And I think we need to be giving opportunities and so on. Yesterday I was in a conversation where there was a lot of conversation about maybe starting with looking at that in terms of the church and engaging with young people and meeting the needs of young people and so on. We're talking about looking to the leaders and trying to influence the leaders and so on in the organizations, in the church and so on. But if all the leaders, for example, if a lot of our young people that we're talking about are Black young people, and those are some of the young people that I particularly have a focus on as such in terms of my work at the moment. But if all the people occupying the spaces don't look like me, don't look like them, where's the prospects? And you're trying to win over people for whom this is not their reality. How do you make that a reality and a safe space and the abundant life for the young people who are looking and see, well, that space is not for me. So I've got to go and try to find an alternative space. And it's the alternative space that then becomes the problem, but it's not the start of the problem. So all of those things.
Thank you, thank you. Joanna, over to you. Have you
Sure, thank you. In terms of an abundant life for youth, I mean, in a sense, youth want what we all want as adults, and love, understanding that they're loved, unconditional love, where they're accepted because of who they are, having a strong, confident sense of identity as a Black person, as a, in their own unique self, their personality, their gifts, their talents, and as was said before, being able to express them. Also, as Karen said, just a sense of purpose and significance, being able to contribute, knowing that I can make a difference in my world. And then also having, let's say maybe a different idea of what success is and how they can attain it, that success is attainable to them. And so I think, love and under a confident identity that is built, and also, purpose and significance, and in understanding success. And also, I mean, there is what we call the 40 developmental assets for youth. And I think that kind of also speaks to, just the number of areas in which, once received, that contributes to an abundant life for young people. Yeah.
thank you, thank you. And Reverend Nana? Brother, you're still on, you're still muted.
Yes. Let me say it is good to be here. Europe has given so much to the Caribbean, and the Caribbean is bursting with so much to give back to Europe. And for one, but thank you for the chance for sharing. For one, there are artists that have been coming from the Caribbean, even now, and not all of these artists embodies the belief of the church and carries the energy, the theology, and that of transformation. And I'm but rather pushing gun lyrics at times and letting the brand Jamaica look bad. And so I am pushing and advocating for the church here in Europe to create a space to receive the artists from the Caribbean. I know I have some who are ready, some gospel reggae band, or just reggae band to move throughout Europe and do some impactful thing. Here we go now. Man a priest, man a protector, man no thief, man no murder, man no waste time, man street corner, man no runway, left them problem. Man is a father to his children, man no plant seed and pack up and leave, man stand up, stand up, stand up, man, to your responsibility. Man no fool, man go to school, man don't let man turn him in a fool, man go to church, man read him Bible, man of faith, man of God, man of salvation. Listen to me, man, you are hear me, man a priest, man a protector, man no thief, man no murder, man no waste time, pan street corner. So we go, so then, here it goes now, here we go, here we go. Love your mother, love your father, love your sister, love your brother. God said to love each other, yo. Love is a thing, when it gets into your skin, make you want to sing, make you want to chant, make you want to do all kind of something. So we go so then, love your mother, love your father, love your sister, love your brother. God said to love each other, yo. So we have to say it to the world, we have to say it to those places where darkness is give me back. And give me back. Give me back. And give me back means give me back. Give me back. And give me back. Give me back. And give me back. Give me back my youth. Give me back my picnic. Give me back my love. Give me back my joy. Give me back everything you take from me. Give me back. And give me back. Give me back. And give me back. Yeah. So as a church now, for those who don't understand the rhythm of Patois, I'll say to you, this sermon is a masterpiece which shall hang high, way up in the museums of your minds. These sermon lines will not rhyme, but its truth shall shine until everybody on this Zoom, out of this Zoom across the world, is blinded by the illumination of this sermon. This sermon is written for Christians, non-Christians, slack-binders, believers, and criticizers. This sermon is a revelation. It's a revelation given to all creation to break down the figment of your imagination and to bring forth a revolution in this nation. This sermon is a bell. This sermon is a drum. This sermon shall beat long and hard. Rhythms of glory in your conscience. This sermon shall speak whether you are awake or asleep. This sermon shall be your meat until you and your master face to face meet. You must tell someone about this sermon. Tell them that this is a radical sermon that will rectify their lives, touch their pain, heal them. You must tell someone about Jesus Christ. He is the message in the arts and this sermon. So I said to you, don't give up on your purpose. You are going to make it. It is a must. Trust the Lord and put him first. Don't give up on a mission. Don't give up on synergy. Don't give up on nobody. Trust God and put him first. Peace and love.
Thank you. I think it's kind of hard to follow that. I mean, I'm looking at the time and I think the time's almost up, and it'd be good to end on that high point. So what I would like to say is to thank you, Reverend Kevin Nana. Moses, somebody actually put in there, pull up. I'm sure they meant Harlem pull up as well. So you can put, we haven't got time for that. But thank you very much for that. Thank you, Joanna, as well, for your excellent contribution. Bishop, as always, you are an excellent chair of Synergy, and thank you very much for your prayers and for your the wisdom in terms of some of the responses that you gave during that Q&A just now. Karen, great to hear from you.
Thank you.
Better to have seen you, but there you go.
I know.
But there's another time for that. But thank you again for joining us this evening, and also for supporting this important, I'm going to call it, it's like a tour, isn't it? You know, of our colleagues from Jamaica. I think Natalie has left us, but I would again like to thank her for her wonderful words, really powerful testimony, and let's continue to pray for her. As clearly, yeah, she's clearly not well, but also, you know, that whole grieving process as she as she mentioned, is one that is it's you know, you can't put a time limit on that. So, you know, let's continue to pray for her, but also to consider and to pray for other parents that have lost loved ones to violence affecting young people. As I've said, it's you know, we often just see them as statistics, but you know, behind every statistic there is a family or individuals who are having to pick up the pieces, having lost loved ones in such tragic circumstances. And you know, that's what makes the work of organizations like Synergy Network and others so important. It's not theoretical, it's not academic, it's real. You know, it's where the rubber hits the road. It's where, you know, people have to sort of get alongside those who've lost loved ones and help them to pick up the pieces. Finally, I'd like to, well, not finally, but I'd like to thank my colleague Ramina, who has done all the wonderful admin behind the scenes. She's the person who just says churches together in Britain and Ireland. That's Ramina. Thank you, Ramina, for your sterling work, not just this evening, but in helping to set up this webinar over the last couple of weeks. And I'd like to thank all those who have joined us this evening and have heard from our wonderful panelists. Just to say, I'm just wondering, Nana and Joanna, if you could just tell us about what you'll be doing for the rest of your stay in the UK. I know I think you're in Brixton this evening. I don't know if you're going to do any of your kind of your DJing, Nana, this evening, but if you could just give us a few words in terms of tell us what you'll be doing, and if we can come out and support you, then I'm you know, I think that would be great. Either one of you, just tell me what you're up to, as they say.
All right, thank you so much. Well, we've actually gone through a number of the initiatives for the tour at the moment. And so we will actually be going on patrol in Brixton. Yes, tonight, right after this. So we will have that. But, you know, we were able to have a number of conversations with church leaders, visit different URC-based churches to find out some of what they were doing, you know, in terms of in the community, and, you know, being able to interact with some of the young people. And so it has really and truly been a wonderful time of understanding more about the culture, interacting, and being able to share some of our own insights and knowledge. We were able also to visit Spark to Life, which is an organization that works with you know, youth, and they do what they call early prevention and enhanced prevention. Early prevention has to do with, you know, working with the young people before they are incarcerated or, you know, in contact with the justice system. And then enhanced prevention has to do with, you know, when they have you know, contact with the justice system, what they do. We're also going to be visiting Brixton Police Station tomorrow, and we'll be able to have conversations, you know, with the borough commander, and I'll just really get to understand more about the issue of youth crime, the prevalence, the frequency, some of, you know, perhaps, you know, what they believe has been able to help, and some of the challenges that they face. And we'll also be able to just share some of our own experiences and knowledge with them. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And obviously we'll be praying for you as you go out and about. And you know, it's good for us to hear from you. And I'm sure there are a few things that you can learn from us as well. Bishop, can I call on you to close us in prayer? And then after that, we'll wish you all a good evening. So Bishop, as chair, please just say a few final words. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I say a very big thank you to Reverend Kevin, Nana, Moses. I got to tell you, Kevin, I got to buy one of your records. I thoroughly love it.
Okay,
And
thank
Dr.
you.
Joanna, it's a joy to see you. I met your dad some years back, and I wish you would take back with you my very kind regards to him and his family. Thank you all, and to those on the panel here. I want to thank you, Richard, for doing this for us. I'm always appreciative of the many things you do for Synergy and the kingdom as a whole. Let us just spread. Karen, thank you so much. I met you yesterday. What a delight. It's a real joy. And gracious Creator, As we bring this meeting to a close, we offer thanks for the time shared. May the insights gained and the many things that we have learned propel us towards our shared goals. Grant us wisdom in our endeavors, strengthen our unity and our compassion in the interactions that we will engage in the months and years ahead. And may your peace and your grace and your love continue to shine through all of us as we try to progress this work of impacting positively the problems that we see in our communities, in our cities, right across our world. This problem of violence against young people. God grant us great insights so that we can be more purposeful in all we do. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Bye-bye.
evening. Good night.
Good evening, all.